So what I thought I'd do is record a video on how to use Equation Editor in Microsoft Word. And this is simply to help you when you're typing up anything for math and you want to go ahead and put an equation in there. And it's quite simple actually. So what you're going to do is you're going to notice along the top there's a bunch of ribbons here. And if you hit the insert ribbon, toward the end of the ribbon you're going to see equation. Now, if you hit the little drop down right here, you'll see there's a bunch of preloaded equations, but not always the ones you want and not what you're really going to be doing. So for now, ignore that. Although you do see the quadratic formula, may be very useful, or in trigonometry, you might see the trig identities, but again, let's go ahead and look at a general thing. So instead of hitting the drop down, hit the little pi symbol, which will just give you an equation. I'll say type equation here. Now at this point, there are a lot of options to choose from. There's the fraction option, there's a superscript or a subscript option. For the fractions, you have all these choices. And you have some preloaded fractions, some of which you may recognize, some of which you may not. Here's your slope. In the script option, you can see you have a power, which is called a superscript. You have a subscript. You have a subscript and a superscript here. And here you have, with the left side of the subscript and superscript, which should probably only be used for chemistry, where you're talking about the atomic number or maybe atomic mass unit. The third option is radicals. You have your basic square root. You have your square root with a degree. So if you want like the third root of the fourth root of the fifth root, you can use this. You're never going to use this one. You should never use a square root with a 2. It's completely pointless. But this is a preloaded cube root, which you could just use this one and type a little 3 in this little spot right here. After that, we're not going to really look at these ones in class. Brackets you can use, but you can also use the ones on your keyboard, which are a lot easier, so I wouldn't use this either. You're not going to use your trig function in this class. For the accent, the only one you may want is this one right here, which puts a bar over the value, which indicates average. We've used that before with R bar for average rate. And finally, the last part you may use would be your matrix. So you may use a matrix like this. Okay, and if you want a matrix that's a bigger size, we'll talk about how to do that and how to put brackets around the matrix. Okay, how to put brackets around it like this, without actually having to use this option. We can simply use this option here and put brackets around it. Anyhow, let's start with fraction. So for example, first, if I hit fraction and hit this button here, I'm going to see that a fraction appears on the screen. Now, there's several things. You can do it this way and just go to the options, put 3 and a 4 for 3/4. But what I consider or recommend you do is instead, go ahead and simply just press 3/4. Now, it's going to leave it like that until you press the space bar. The space bar is key in Equation Editor. Every time you press the space bar after something, it makes it look better. Hit spacebar, it makes it look like a fraction that you may want. Or another example. If you have something with a superscript and you want to use the superscript option, you can just press the superscript and go through it and press like x squared. Now if you keep pressing buttons, it's going to continue to appear in the superscript. So you have to press to the right. Press the right arrow key and then it'll bring it down. So x squared y would look like that. But say you don't want to do that. You don't want to use the superscript option. You want to use the spacebar option. You would press x caret 2, and then when you hit the space bar, it automatically makes it a superscript. Then what it also does is it automatically brings you out of the superscript. When you press y, it automatically knows that you're outside of the power. Another good superscript to use is your, actually not superscript, another good script to use is your subscript. And that's this option here. So if you want like x2 for slope, x subscript 2, you're still in the subscript though, so remember to press the right arrow key to get out of it. So x2 minus, for example, x1. Now I'm going to show you, instead of doing that, instead of pressing script, press x underscore 1. The underscore automatically assumes that everything to the right of it is a superscript after you press the space bar. The underscore is shift and then the hyphen on your keyboard next to the number 0. Radicals, what I would do for radicals is know that when you click on a radical, this one I would use the actual preloaded radical up here. If you want a simple square root, just press that, and that's easy. But for an index, what you'll notice is that you have 2 arguments. Here you can put whatever you want. So okay, so there's your radicand. And if you want, like, say, the third root, simply go to here and press 3. Then you can press end to get to the very end of this fraction again. Now what you're going to notice is that if If I didn't press end, I would still be under the fraction. See how the highlighting changes here? Highlighting. If I'm still under the fraction, I want to press, like, say I want to multiply this whole thing by another radical. So if I go to press like a times key, it's going to show up under this radical. So I can't do that. I have to press to the right to get out of the radicand. Or simply just press end always. Press end and it'll bring you to the end. Now if you press times, you're in a new part. So you can put another radical here like that. Okay? Now there's some other shortcuts. So if I don't want to press times and I want to do the dot, okay, for example, the dot multiplier, it looks like this. Okay, and I can press whatever else I want. But if I don't want to type that dot every time, I can press this command, slash, and the slash is above, enter, C dot, and then hit the space bar. And there are many of these keyboard shortcuts, and what you want to do here is just Google, and there'll probably be easy documents, or many documents showing the different possible shortcuts you can use on your keyboard instead of using these mouse options at the top. Yeah, let's see. For parentheses and brackets, say you want to do 2/3 times 3/4, and you want them to be in parentheses. So that doesn't look like what you want. So you want parentheses around each one. You need to go to the beginning of each one of these. So we'll go all the way over, put a parentheses, go to the end of this one, put a parentheses. And that doesn't look good, but when you press spacebar, it does. It resizes it. Here I can put a parentheses, and then just press end. You'll go to the far end, put another parentheses, hit your spacebar, and suddenly you have two fractions, both of which have parentheses. Now, the other part I want to look at is a matrix. Go over here, insert our equation, let's put a matrix in, and say we just put a 3×3 in. But let's say that we want brackets around this. So we go home, press home, it brings you to the beginning. Not the first entry, but press home, you get to the beginning of it. Put a bracket there on the keyboard. Press end, put a closed bracket. It doesn't look that good, but when you press spacebar, now it knows to put brackets around the matrix. But say you want another row, and here's your, let's say here's our entries. Okay, that's our matrix. But you want to put a row above this first row. Click on the first row, right click it, and hit insert, and you want to hit insert a row above or before, sorry, before or after. We want a before, and it puts a row beforehand. Say we want a column wedged in right here. We can go to this column here and press insert column after, meaning to the right of it. It puts a column wedged in right there. And you can do this many times you want. You can delete a column also. Right click, hit delete, and delete the column. Gets rid of that column we just put in there. So there's a lot of exploration you can do with the matrix. Finally, the last thing I want to show you is instead of hitting insert equation every time, I'm sure this must get annoying and you'll notice that, and I get annoyed by it, having to do it every time. But you can create what's called the keyboard shortcut in Word. You can do this for any function really, but I'll show you how to do it for an equation, and then you can universally use this later. Hit this drop down up here. It says customize quick access toolbar. Okay, and then hit more commands. On the bottom left, you're going to see quick access toolbars highlighted, but instead of that, hit customize ribbon. And then on the bottom left, you're going to see keyboard shortcuts. If you click on the customize button here, you're going to notice that this is bringing up keyboard shortcuts and customizations. So for example, on the file tab, if you go to print, most people, or most of you know that print is Control P. So if I go down to print, here's print, print preview, and print. That's the one we're talking about. If I click on this, you see the current keys that are assigned to this shortcut are Control P, Control F2, Control Shift F12. There's many options, but Control P is the one that you recognize. But what we want to do is we want to go to the Insert tab or the Insert ribbon, and then go down to Editor or Equation Editor. Equation Insert. There it is. Now, you're going to see for me that there's currently a key assigned, and it says Alt, Control, Backspace. For you, it's not going to be there because that key shortcut does not exist. So what you're going to do is you're going to click here, and it's going to say Press New Shortcut Key. And at this point in time, you're going to indicate what shortcut key you want to press. Like for example, if I press Control P, it's going to say Currently Assigned to Print Preview. So we don't want to use Control P, simply because it's currently assigned to something else. So instead, what I've done is pressed Control Alt Backspace. Okay? And it says currently assigned to Equation Insert because I've already assigned it that way. For yours, it's not going to say it's assigned to anything. So I would use Control Alt Backspace. Then you can save it just in that one document you're working in, or for all documents in Word. And I would leave it for all documents and hit Assign. Once you hit Assign, you can hit Close and get out of here. I'm not going to hit Assign again because it already is assigned. So I'm going to close it and get out of here. And don't hit cancel, by the way. Instead of hitting cancel, I know I hit cancel just now. Instead of hitting cancel, hit OK, and you're exiting the program there. And what you'll notice is that instead of going to insert and then equation and clicking, now I can just be on the home ribbon and press Control Alt Backspace, and it automatically pops up. Okay, make sure you don't do it for a key that's already been assigned. So for example, Control Delete freezes or locks your computer, brings you to your task manager. So don't do that. Pick something that has not been assigned. If you have any other questions, please feel free to ask me or Google any of these questions. Many of the answers will be listed.